The rain had just begun to fall over Manhattan when the black Rolls-Royce pulled into the circular driveway of the Ashford estate. The mansion towered above the street like a silent fortress of glass and stone. Inside, billion-dollar deals were made with a phone call, and powerful men feared the name Victor Ashford. Victor stood by the floor-to-ceiling window in his private office, staring at the city lights bleeding through the rain. Behind him, his wife, Elena, sat silently on a leather couch, her expression unreadable. Victor didn't turn around when he spoke. "Do you know why I called you here tonight?" Elena crossed her legs slowly. "I assumed it was because you finally remembered you have a wife." Victor chuckled dryly. "Still sarcastic. That's one thing about you I admire." He turned then, his sharp blue eyes studying her carefully. "But tonight isn't about marriage." He walked toward the desk and picked up a tablet. "You've been receiving threats." Elena raised an eyebrow. "Threats?" Victor slid the tablet across the desk. On the screen were several anonymous messages. "We know what your husband did. You are not safe." Elena frowned. "And your solution?" Victor pressed a button on the intercom. "Send him in." A moment later, the door opened. A tall man stepped into the room, wearing a dark suit that fit his athletic frame perfectly. His eyes were calm but alert, scanning the room with quiet precision. "Victor Ashford," the man said. Victor nodded. "Elena, this is Daniel Hayes." Elena looked him over. "And who exactly is Daniel Hayes?" Victor leaned back. "Your new bodyguard." Silence hung in the room. Elena laughed softly. "You hired someone to follow me around?" Victor's expression remained cold. "You're valuable." Elena smirked. "To you?" Victor's eyes narrowed. "To my reputation." Daniel stood quietly, watching the exchange without emotion. Victor gestured toward him. "Former military, private security for high-profile clients, never lost a client." Elena stood and walked slowly around Daniel, studying him. "So you're going to protect me from imaginary threats?" Daniel met her gaze calmly. "I protect people from very real ones." Victor clasped his hands. "From this moment forward, Daniel goes everywhere with you." Elena stopped walking. "And if I refuse?" Victor's smile was thin. "You won't." The rain intensified outside as the meeting ended, but none of them realized yet that the storm inside that mansion would be far more dangerous. Over the next few weeks, Daniel became a constant shadow in Elena's life. Business dinners, charity galas, private meetings. He was always there, silent, watchful, professional. But rumors began spreading through Manhattan's elite circles. People whispered. They noticed how Elena sometimes leaned closer when she spoke to Daniel. They noticed the way Daniel's eyes lingered a little longer than necessary. One evening, after a charity auction at the Plaza Hotel, Elena stepped outside into the cool night air. Daniel followed a few steps behind. "You don't have to follow me every second," she said without turning. "That's the job." She smiled slightly. "And you always follow orders?" Daniel didn't answer. Instead, he scanned the street. Black cars lined the curb, drivers waiting. Elena turned toward him. "You're very serious." "Comes with the job." "And if the job disappeared?" Daniel looked at her. "Then I'd disappear too." Elena studied him carefully. "Somehow I don't believe that." A camera flash lit up the street. A paparazzi photographer across the road snapped pictures. The next morning, the headlines exploded across gossip blogs. "Billionaire's wife caught with mysterious bodyguard." Victor saw the photos before breakfast. He slammed the newspaper onto the marble table. Elena walked in casually. "Good morning." Victor pointed to the pictures. "Explain this." Elena glanced at them. "Oh, that." Victor's voice dropped dangerously low. "Are you sleeping with him?" Elena laughed. "Is that jealousy I hear?" Victor leaned forward. "You're embarrassing me." Elena's expression hardened. "You embarrassed yourself years ago, Victor." Daniel entered the dining room quietly, unaware of the tension. Victor's eyes snapped toward him. "You." Daniel stopped. "Yes, sir?" Victor walked slowly toward him. "I hired you to protect my wife." "That's what I'm doing." Victor leaned closer. "Then why does the entire city think you're sleeping with her?" Daniel remained calm. "I can't control gossip." Victor stared at him for a long moment. Then he turned away. "Get out." Daniel left the room, but Victor's suspicion had already begun to grow. And suspicion in the mind of a powerful man could become very dangerous. 3 weeks later, Victor stormed into the boardroom of Ashford Global. His executives fell silent as he threw a financial report onto the table. $400 million. No one spoke. Victor's voice echoed through the room. $400 million missing from company accounts. The CFO cleared his throat nervously. The transfer was authorized from a private executive terminal. Victor's eyes burned. Whose terminal? The room went silent again. Finally, the CFO answered quietly. Elena Ashford. Gasps spread across the room. Victor's jaw tightened. Cancel all her access immediately. He grabbed his coat and stormed out. That evening, police cars surrounded the Ashford mansion. Inside the living room, Elena stood calmly while Victor paced like a caged animal. "You stole from me," he said. Elena tilted her head. "Did I?" Victor slammed a folder onto the table. $400 million transferred through your credentials. Elena glanced at the documents. How strange. Victor pointed toward Daniel, who stood near the doorway. Were you helping her? Daniel's face remained expressionless. I protect her. Victor's voice rose. You're both finished. He turned toward the detectives entering the house. Arrest her. The room fell silent. But then, Elena started laughing. Slow, cold. Victor frowned. What's so funny? Elena looked at Daniel. Now. Daniel stepped forward calmly. Then something unexpected happened. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a badge. Not a security badge, a federal badge. The lead detective's eyes widened. Daniel spoke clearly. Special Investigator Daniel Hayes. Victor froze. What? Daniel's voice hardened. For the last 12 months, we've been investigating you. Victor's face went pale. Investigating me? Daniel nodded. Fraud, illegal arms trading, corporate embezzlement. Victor looked around the room in disbelief. This is insane. Elena stepped closer. Is it? Victor turned toward her slowly. You knew? Elena's eyes were calm. I helped. Victor staggered backward. You betrayed me. Elena's voice was icy. You destroyed thousands of lives, Victor. Daniel continued. Your shell companies moved billions through offshore accounts. Victor laughed bitterly. You have no proof. Daniel slid a tablet onto the table. We have everything. Victor looked at the screen. Transaction records, hidden accounts, signed authorizations. His face drained of color. Then Daniel spoke again. There's something else you should know. Victor looked up. Daniel's eyes were no longer calm. They were burning. My family lived in a town your company poisoned with illegal waste dumping. Victor stared. My parents died there. The room fell silent. Daniel's voice trembled slightly. You buried the evidence. Elena placed a hand on Daniel's shoulder. That's when we started working together. Victor whispered. The affair? Elena smirked. A performance. Daniel nodded. We knew you'd take the bait. Victor's hands began to shake. You planned this. Elena smiled. Every second. The lead detective stepped forward. Victor Ashford, you're under arrest. Handcuffs clicked around Victor's wrists. The billionaire who controlled half of Manhattan suddenly looked like a frightened old man. As officers escorted him toward the door, he turned back toward Elena. You'll regret this. Elena met his gaze. No. Victor disappeared into the flashing red and blue lights outside. The mansion was silent after the police left. Daniel stood by the window. Elena poured 2 glasses of wine. Well, she said softly. That was dramatic. Daniel finally allowed himself to breathe. It's over. Elena handed him a glass. Not quite. Daniel frowned. What do you mean? Elena smiled. The money. Daniel raised an eyebrow. The 400 million? Elena nodded. Recovered and transferred to compensation funds. Daniel exhaled. For the victims. Elena lifted her glass. For justice. They clinked glasses quietly. Outside, Manhattan continued moving like nothing had happened. But somewhere in a prison cell, one of the most powerful men in the city finally realized the truth. The bodyguard he hired was the man who destroyed him.